Are you using Notion in your agency or service business to manage all your leads and your clients? And you know already it's kind of a mess. Things are all over the place, things aren't getting maintained. Well, I'm going to show you in this video 3 automations that are going to turn your same Notion into an automated powerhouse that lets you easily manage your sales leads and also easily manage your clients when you onboard and offboard them. First things first, we have to get leads and people into this database. And obviously, how do we do this in most cases with agencies and service businesses? It's when they book in a call, especially if you're running a business online. Or in some cases, if you have a form on your website that says request a callback, you would add them in that case. It's triggered by a form. But in this case, it's triggered by a Calendly booking. And the key thing here is, when I first started working on this project with the client, they were adding every single booking as a new record. And what that meant is we were getting duplicates because people were sometimes booking in twice, they were rescheduling, things like that. And it was creating a new record every single time. But what we need to do in this case, as you can see here in this Zap, is we first try to find the database item. And we try to find them using a unique identifier. I'm going to show you the steps. And then if they are found, we are just updating the record because we just want to know if there was new information. Or we just add in an additional note saying they booked in another call, for example, like a history, a track of what's happened, what actions they've performed. If they're not found, then we create a new record. So let me show you the actual find database item. So you can see here, what we do is we are using the unique identifier of email. It's the best thing we have. That is more than likely going to be unique. The person's going to use the same email address over and over. And the big part is using the step here saying we should continue even if a record is not found. Usually, if this is set to false, Zapier will just throw up an error and the automation will stop, which means we can't do anything afterwards. But in this case, we want to continue because, as I said here, in these branches, we use that as part of our conditions. For example, you can see here, the condition I use is continue if the search was found status is equal to false, which means it wasn't found, it's a new person, it's a new booking, and then we create a new database item. And you can see here, obviously I have blocked out some personal information, but we have a status because we are using this as an actual sales pipeline. So there's statuses that move along as cards. We add them as a lead because they've just booked in, they're new. And then also, you can see here, I add just a bit of additional information saying the call was scheduled at what time. If you wanted to, we could have calls scheduled as an actual column, which would make it a little bit easier because then you can filter, you can sort and things like that. But in this case, the way the client originally set it up, we just add in it as a little note saying when the call was booked. If they were found, that means they already exist and we want to update them. We don't want to create a new record. So we're using the update database step. And you can see we use the ID from the previous step. This type of thing is what trips up a lot of people with Zapier automations, is knowing how to use the IDs. So we pass in the ID to the item, and then we just update a couple of things. In this case, I was just updating personal information because there wasn't too much more we wanted to add. This next automation is we have closed the person. We've received a first payment from them. This client situation was a little bit different in that people go onto subscriptions, which means you will get recurring payments from people. And obviously we don't want to create new client records for every single payment. And that is what was originally happening. So we're using a lot of the same principles I used with the booking one to not create duplicate records. We first try to find records, and then if we find it, we update it. If we don't find it, we create a new one, and that's how we know it's the first payment. But in this case, you can see here, a new payment comes in from Stripe. What's a little bit different here is I first try to find a email address. For some reason, Stripe puts the email addresses in different places sometimes. So what I did is I used the formatter step, text and a default value, and basically I just give the 2 most common email fields. So I always know I'm going to get a email address of some sort. It's just a little trick that I really like. Basically what it means is if this input value is empty, then it's going to return the other value. It's basically like an if else. So it's like if the first one is empty, return the other one. In theory, they both could be empty, but that's very unlikely. So I just like to do it this way because it's a little bit of a hack and it's something I've picked up from all my experience. Now, if I do find the email address, we're going down the path because now we can actually do something. If we don't find the email address, I just send a notification saying like, hey, something funky has happened here. Just take a look at the Stripe subscription and we might just need to jump in there and fix that. But if we find an email address, again, we're trying to find the item in Notion. We're looking the person up again in the sales CRM, and we're doing it by email because we've got two different databases. We have one for sales and we have one for client management. So we try to find the person in the sales CRM because we just want to move that deal to closed. We want to make sure that every card's been updated so the sales team are looking at the correct things. So you can see here, I try to look the person up based on the email address because again, that's more than likely the most unique thing we have. So I try to find them. If we don't find them, I just create the record as just a new record. It's just an email. I'm not doing anything too crazy there. Now, what's really interesting, I'm checking the status of that card that we find. If it's a brand new card, obviously the status isn't going to be closed. Also, if the card already exists and they were a lead or they were in follow-up or something like that, they're also not going to be enclosed. So we're only continuing for the first time that we see someone being moved into the closed status. And you can see what I do here is I continue if they haven't been closed yet, if their card hasn't been moved to closed, which also means we likely haven't created their client management card yet. And you can see I just get their name, I get the website, and then I update the sales record. You can see here in the sales CRM, I'm updating the item found in the previous step and I move it to closed. And then there's something unique to their business is they need to give access to this tool called Video Ask. So I do some API requests, but then I create the client record in a different database. You can see here, I create a record in a different database, which is called clients, and I'm adding the client name, start date, current plan is active, things like that. The reason I like doing this, as opposed to just move the sales, the original card and person in the sales CRM to close, and that's where everything's done, is it's just very noisy. It's very messy. You want the customer success team to be looking somewhere else in a project management tool, and you want the sales team to be somewhere else. You don't want everyone mixing stuff up. It gets very confusing, gets very messy, and a lot of conversation going on there. The final step is, what if someone cancels? Obviously that sucks, but we want to maintain all of our data. We want to make sure all our cards are correctly updated and things like that. Obviously, this could be a lot more complicated. In this case, this client just wanted something very simple to get started, and we'll add stuff on as we go. Like you could add tasks around offboarding and notify people and send Slack messages when something cancels and all that, but this is just the most simple setup we wanted to do. Canceled subscription comes in, and again, you're going to see a pattern. We're trying to find a record based on an email address. In the clients database, which is where we manage the clients now, we try to find the card using the email address. In this case, which you might see is different, I actually do let the automation error out because I do want an error to pop up and say like, hey, we couldn't actually find this person's client's object for some reason. So in this case, I do actually want to let it error out. I could have again let it not error and just send a direct notification saying, hey, we couldn't find this person's card, go take a look. But I just did it the quick and dirty way for this client because they wanted to just have something super, super simple to manage and maintain for now. So we find the item. If we don't find it, that's weird. We throw an error, we check it out. But if we do find it, we carry on to updating the step. And you can probably guess what happens in the next step. We are keeping it super simple here, just marking them as inactive so the customer success team doesn't have to think about it. But ideally, we are also timestamping when they got offboarded. We are building that history of when they were onboarded, offboarded. Maybe we even ask a reason why they canceled. Again, this initial setup is very, very simple. We will add that stuff as we go along. And then we could also, again, add notifications and things like that. But this was a super simple setup for this client, and it was just helping them stop things like duplicates, make sure cards were moved into the correct position and things like that. I hope you found those 3 automations really, really helpful. And I feel like this is a great example of how you can take something like Notion, which can be quite manual, even though they've introduced some automations in their own system now, how we can use some 3 simple automations in Zapier to make it a killer automated sales and customer management tool for your agency or your service business. So if you want help setting up these types of automations and having these same type of systems and automations in place for your business, save time, help you scale, all those good things, you can obviously reach out to me and we can talk about how we can do that for your business. I've worked with Notion, ActiveCampaign, Close, HubSpot, almost everything you can imagine, everything that's popular, and I've helped clients set these things up so their sales pipelines are automated, optimized, they can manage their clients, save a ton of time, and help them scale their businesses. So if you want the same thing, just reach out to me and we can talk about how we can do that for you.